I know I'm not supposed to be here. I mean that in more ways than one. First, I shouldn't be alive. Second, I shouldn't be telling you this. They made that clear from the beginning. Don't talk, don't post, don't warn. But after what I saw last night, I can't keep quiet anymore. If you're ever offered a job driving the night shift for the Metropolitan Area Express, do yourself a favor run. I survived 3 nights, barely, and I'm pretty sure no one's ever made it past 5. It started with a plain envelope taped to my apartment door. No logo, just my name in block print. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Report to Terminal C, Dock 5, on 11:45 p.m. sharp. Bring ID. Do not be late. No signature. No instructions. Nothing. I was broke. Rent was 3 months overdue. I'd been driving Uber full-time, but the market was flooded. I needed anything that paid cash. So I showed up. Terminal C was more like a storage yard than a bus depot. Chain-link fences, 1 flickering floodlight, and 6 old diesel buses that looked like they hadn't seen daylight since the 90s, and the whole place reeked of motor oil and mildew. Dock 5 was the only bay with lights on. A man stood inside the garage, clipboard in hand, mid-50s, crew cut, city transit jacket. His name tag just said, T. Knox, Ryan Marrow. He asked without looking up, Yeah, you start tonight. Welcome to the M. You'll be running line 301 from Midvale Loop to Sycamore South. You don't need a map. Route's locked. You don't pick the stops. You don't pick the passengers. You just drive. Got it. Sure. He handed me a slim folder and a ring of keys. I flipped open the folder. Inside were 2 things, a laminated route card and a single sheet of paper titled Rules for Survival. Line 301 night shift. 1. Watch the mile meter. Each leg of the route is exactly 6 miles. If it shows more or less, something is wrong. Do not ignore this. To a 2. Only stop at designated points. No unscheduled stops. No waiting in between. No pulling over. 3. Do not reverse the route. The direction is fixed. Turning around means you'll never get back. 4. Keep the engine running. Always. Stalling or turning off the ignition is not an option. 5. Never open the door for strangers between stops, no matter what they look like, no matter what they say. 6. If you hear knocking from the back when you're alone, do not check it. Do not look back. You serious? I asked, half laughing. Is this some kind of hazing? Knox finally looked up. His eyes were pale gray and completely humorless. No, it's a city contract. You signed on. You follow the rules, or you won't come back. Understand? I stared at him. Understand? He repeated. Yeah, got it. The bus was older than me. Vinyl seats, cracked dashboard, and a mile meter mounted right above the wheel, not digital, not GPS-based, but mechanical, with a loud tick for every 1/10 of a mile, like a metronome counting down something I couldn't name. 11:59 p.m. I pulled out of Dock 5. I'd memorized the first 3 stops, Midvale Loop, Carson Bridge, and Holloway Station. That was enough. Exactly 6 miles to the first stop. I watched the mile meter. 1, 0, 2, 3, 0, 2, and then 3, 6. I stopped. Just like the paper said, no one was there, or so I thought. The bus door hissed open anyway. A man in a long brown coat stepped on, nodded once, then sat mid-row. Didn't say a word. I kept driving. Same thing at the second stop. Mile meter landed exactly at 7. When to go. Woman in a gray hoodie. Didn't speak. Didn't pay. Just sat down. Quiet. It was eerie. Sure, but it was the city at midnight. You see worse. At the third stop, Holloway, the bus felt full. 7 people now. All scattered. No one made eye contact. No one spoke. I glanced in the rear view and froze. One of them had no face, Not deformed, not disfigured, just nothing. A smooth blank surface like polished clay. I turned back to the road so fast I nearly swerved. Maybe I imagined that. I thought, maybe it's the mirror angle, a trick of the light. I didn't look again. Mile meter ticked on. Tendi. Aeon. I was reaching the fourth stop. Then something happened that made my skin go cold. The meter rolled back. It dropped from 10, 8 to 10, 5, then 10, 2, then 9. Satin. The bus was still moving forward, but the numbers were counting down. I slammed the brakes. The bus shuddered to a stop in the middle of a dead stretch of road. No streetlights, just that endless hum of the engine and the tick of the meter. Tick, tick, tick. It stopped at 9, 3. I don't know why I did it, but I reached for the door switch. The passengers all stood up at once, as if triggered by a single silent signal. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then the faceless one turned to face me. No eyes, no mouth, just the faint impression of a smile. The bus engine sputtered and died. The silence after the engine died was thick, like the bus was underwater. You don't realize how much comfort there is in background noise until it disappears completely. I sat frozen, my hand still on the gear shift, eyes locked on the rearview mirror. The passengers, if that's what they were, stood motionless in the aisle. Then the mile meter clicked. Not forward, not backward. It just reset. 0.0. A full reset meant I was off route. And off route meant one thing. I broke a rule. My breath came shallow. Sweat beaded at the back of my neck. I didn't know what to do. Should I restart the engine? Should I open the door? Should I scream? Then the knocking started. From the back of the bus. It wasn't frantic. It wasn't loud. Just 3 deliberate raps, like someone knocking politely on a door they already knew would open. Knock, knock, knock. No one moved. None of the passengers reacted, not even the faceless one. It was like the knock was only for me. I remembered the rule. If you hear knocking from the back when you're alone, do not check it. Do not look back. But I wasn't alone. Or was I? I looked up. The bus was empty. The aisle was clear. The seats were vacant. Not a single soul on board. They were gone. All of them. Even the faceless one. I was about to scream when the engine coughed back to life on its own. The headlights flickered. The dashboard lit up, and the mile meter jumped to 14. Patri. That was the exact distance to the next stop. If I had never stopped the bus in the first place, it was like the route had corrected itself. I threw it in drive. I didn't care who or what was on board. I just wanted to reach the next stop. When I pulled up at the 14 fire marker, the lights on the bus dimmed. Not off, just dulled, like they were shrinking away from something outside. The stop was unlit. A single street sign marked Sycamore South. There was a woman standing there. She didn't look like the others. She looked real, normal, maybe late 20s, red jacket, blonde braid down her shoulder. Her eyes locked onto me like she'd been waiting all night. I almost didn't open the door, but something in her face wasn't strange. It was terrified. She stepped onto the bus and whispered, "Thank God." I wasn't sure anyone would stop tonight. Her voice shook. Her hands trembled as she clutched the overhead bar. I pulled away, just like I was supposed to. No extra stops, no wrong turns. After a few blocks, I glanced up. She was still standing. "Everything okay?" I asked. Her eyes met mine in the mirror. "You saw them, didn't you?" My stomach dropped. "Who?" I asked. Too quickly. The ones with no faces, the ones who don't speak. She stepped forward, cautiously, like she was approaching an open cage. This bus, it only shows up after midnight. I don't know how I got on it the first time. But once you board it, it remembers you. My throat went dry. "What does that mean?" She sat across from me, near the front. "It means you only get so many chances before it keeps you. I've had 2. You've had one. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. She leaned forward. Listen, if your meter ever resets, don't stop the bus again. Just keep driving, no matter what. How do you know all this? I whispered. She hesitated. Because I used to sit in that seat. She pointed at the driver's seat. Mine. I stared at her, heart pounding. Your name? You're not listed on the current drivers. I'm not supposed to be here anymore, she said quietly. But I got off route, and something let me come back. I think it's because I followed the rules. Almost all of them. I glanced at the mile meter. 16, 8 and climbing. We were on track. Then why are you here now? She looked at me with eyes that no longer hoped. Because you broke the first one, and they're watching to see if you break more. I gripped the wheel tighter. She turned away, heading toward a seat near the back. Wait, I said. What happens if you break all of them? She didn't answer, but as she walked, I saw something on her back. The hem of her red jacket was ripped, and just below it, her spine was covered in finger-shaped bruises, dark and purple like something had held her there. Held her from behind, or pulled her back in. I didn't sleep when the shift ended. At 5:00 a.m. sharp, I pulled into Dock 5. Knox was waiting. You made it, he said like it was a surprise. I handed him the keys. She's back, I told him. He didn't blink. Did she speak? Yes. Then you're still lucky. What do I do now? He handed me a new copy of the survival rules. Same title, same paper. But this one had an extra line added at the bottom in red ink. Rule 7. If a former driver boards your bus, do not speak to her. Do not let her finish her warning. If you do, you inherit her debt. I didn't go home that morning. I drove straight past my apartment, turned off my phone, and sat in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner until the sun was high and hot enough to convince me none of it had happened. But I knew better. My hands were still trembling. The shape of the faceless man lingered behind my eyelids like a screen burn. I hadn't slept, but I reported back the next night. Dock 5 looked smaller somehow. The air smelled heavier, like warm metal and wet stone. I didn't see Knox this time. The keys were already in the ignition. The mile meter sat quietly at 0. I turned the engine over. It started on the first try. As soon as the engine kicked, the bus radio crackled, even though I'd never touched the frequency dial. White noise bled through the speaker, accompanied by something that could have been breathing, or maybe it was just the static playing tricks. I tapped the dash. Route 301. Ready for departure. No response. I pulled out of the lot. This time, I kept both hands on the wheel and my eyes straight ahead. First stop, 6 miles. A man in a business suit stepped on. Nothing strange about him except for the fact he was soaking wet. His shoes sloshed. His tie clung to his chest. He didn't look up, just dripped silently into seat 3A and stared at the floor. Second stop, 2 miles. 2 teenagers got on. They looked normal, talked like they were real. I almost breathed easy until I noticed they weren't blinking. Not once, just talking and laughing without even twitching their eyelids. I stared too long. One of them caught me. His grin widened just a little too far. Too many teeth. The woman in red didn't show up this time. That terrified me more than if she had. I was halfway to the 4th stop when the mile meter skipped. Not in sequence, not a 1/10 of a mile forward. It leapt from 9. 4 debt to 13. 4 miles. Gone. Just like that. I slammed the brakes. Again, against my better judgment. This time, the bus didn't stop. The brake pedal had no resistance. I was pressing it into the floor, and the bus kept cruising at a steady 35 rt/6. No faster, no slower. It was like I wasn't driving anymore. That's when the radio cut back in. A voice came through raspy, low, and mechanical, like it had been chewed by static. Don't fight it. Stay on the line. Eyes front. I felt my body go rigid. The wheel was turning slightly, adjusting itself. The hands guiding it weren't mine. Passengers were watching me. They all had the same expression now, blank, unmoving, as if they were waiting to see if I'd make a mistake. I remembered what she'd said. Just keep driving. At the 4-mile mark, the brakes finally responded. The bus slowed smoothly and stopped without input. I opened the door automatically, by instinct. No one was there. No one got on. But the bus groaned, a long, low metal sigh, as if something had entered, and I simply couldn't see it. The mile meter didn't move. Even when I accelerated again, it just sat frozen at 14. 40, at 17, 9 miles. The lights in the cabin flickered once. Then again, then they shut off completely. I was still driving. No headlights, no streetlights. Just the moon hanging over the windshield like a single cold eye. The mile meter still said 14. 4. Then I heard footsteps. Not from outside, from inside the bus. 1 step, 2, 3. Closer, deliberate. I knew I couldn't look. Rule 6, but they weren't knocking. Was that a loophole? My fingers twitched toward the mirror. I told myself, just 1 glance. Just enough to be sure I was still alone up front. I looked. There was something standing just behind row 6, right on the edge of the aisle. Not in shadow, not blurry, crystal clear. It was tall, too tall. Its head grazed the ceiling, but it was bent at the neck, like it didn't belong upright. Its skin looked like soaked canvas, bulging in places, sagging in others. Its arms were long, wrapped in something like gauze or old linen, where its hands should be. There were handles, like train straps, like it was built for holding on. No face, not even a blank one. Just a cavity, like someone had scooped out a jack-o'-lantern and left it unfinished. I stared too long. The mile meter snapped forward to 18. 3, I gasped. The creature twitched. Then it took a step forward. I screamed and slammed the door switch. The bus braked hard. The cabin lights returned in a painful flash, and the thing was gone. So were the other passengers. Gone. Wiped clean. I drove the rest of the route alone. Didn't stop, didn't look, didn't blink. The mile meter behaved. The stops were empty. My hands never left the wheel. When I pulled into Dock 5 at 5:00 a.m., the lot was empty. Not just quiet, abandoned. No lights, no knocks, no clipboard. I parked in Bay 3. As I stood to leave, the cabin lights blinked one last time, and the radio came alive with a short message. You are now on night 3. You are being watched. I didn't dream when I finally slept that day. Just dropped into unconsciousness, like a brick sinking through black water. When I woke up, my phone was ringing. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I needed to. I pressed accept. Static. Then, night 3. Be early. Wear something with pockets. Then the line went dead. No name, no confirmation. Just that. I stared at the phone until the screen dimmed. I should have quit then. Should have blocked the number. Left the city. Vanished into some desert town where city buses didn't run after midnight. But the thing is, I needed to know. The faceless riders. The rules. The bus that didn't obey physics or reason. What was it? Who made it? And what the hell happens if I make it to night 5? I got to Dock 5 at 10:52 p.m., nearly an hour early. This time, the lights were already on. So was the engine. Someone had started the bus for me. The driver's door was open. I climbed up the steps slowly, ready to run if anything felt wrong. No one inside. But taped to the dashboard was a note, scribbled in black marker on lined notebook paper. They're testing you now. The rules may change. Watch for the signs. Red, red. The woman in the red jacket. She was still alive. Somewhere. Still trying to help me. I started the bus, even though it was already warm, and the mile meter ticked to 0. One thing I noticed immediately, The route card had changed. Same number line 301, but now it listed a stop that hadn't been there before. Stop 5, Verdant Row. I didn't remember that one. It wasn't in any of the city maps I'd memorized. I tried to search for it on my phone. No signal, no GPS, no maps. The city outside felt off as soon as I pulled out of the lot. The streetlights flickered inconsistently, like someone was turning them on and off at random. The sky had a greenish haze to it, like algae floating under glass. There were no other cars, no pedestrians, just me, the road, and the sound of my tires over the concrete. Stop 1, the 6 miles. No one got on. The station was covered in vines. The glass panels had been cracked and taped back together like someone was trying to hold the stop in one piece. Stop 2, Chapton, 2 miles. An old woman stood there, staring at me. She didn't move when I opened the door, didn't move when I honked. Only when I started to pull away did she step backward into the street and wave slowly, like she was sending me off to die. I didn't stop. The bus didn't let me. Stop 3. 8 miles. There was no stop, just a long stretch of abandoned storefronts. The mile meter rolled right past it, ticking to 11, Tpiku, then 11, 6. I panicked. I'd missed a stop. That had to be a rule violation. I braced for it, engine failure, faceless riders, a snap into darkness, but nothing happened. Instead, a voice came over the radio. This time, it wasn't static. It was her. They're watching how you adapt, Red said. Her voice was hushed, scared. There are 2 kinds of drivers, those who follow every rule, and those who improvise. You have to be both now. Verdant Row is not on the map, because it was never meant to be a stop. Not originally. If it opens for you tonight, don't get out. Just wait. And if the mirror shows something different than what's behind you, drive faster, then silence. I was sweating through my jacket by the time I reached 14. 4 miles. A figure stood under the busted stop sign. I almost didn't open the door. But when I did, he stepped on, black hoodie, torn jeans, eyes red, not from crying, but lit from within, like backlit buttons on an elevator panel. He didn't sit, just stood near the back, staring at the emergency exit. I kept my eyes forward. When I checked the mirror 5 minutes later, he was gone. Seat was still wet. 15, 9, 16, 2. Then the bus began to tilt. Not sharply, not all at once, but slowly, like the right side wheels were climbing something I couldn't see. The buildings outside looked crooked, the roads warping upward, like they were painted onto a rubber sheet being stretched. I hit 18, 0 miles, and saw the sign, a simple wooden post jammed into the sidewalk, with red paint smeared across it like blood. Verdant Row. The street was lined with identical houses, each one dark, boarded up, and sagging at the edges. Every window had curtains drawn, but I could feel eyes watching from inside. There was no official stop, no bench, no signpost, but the bus slowed itself, rolled to a gentle halt. I didn't open the door, didn't move, waited. 10 seconds, then 20, then a minute. Something scraped along the side of the bus. Metal on metal. I didn't turn to look. The mirror caught it for me. But the reflection didn't match what I saw out the corner of my eye. In the reflection, someone was crawling, a man in a conductor's uniform, dragging himself on his stomach, face pale and shredded, like a wax figure left out in the sun. But when I glanced toward the actual window, nothing was there. The reflection raised a hand and pointed forward. I floored it. The bus roared to life and launched forward, tires shrieking on the warped asphalt. The mirror flickered, then went dark. The mile meter ticked past 20. When I pulled into Dock 5 at 4:57 a.m., I was shaking so hard I couldn't turn the key. The radio clicked one last time. 3 nights survived. One more before the exchange. Check your pockets. I looked down. In my jacket's side pocket, something I hadn't put there. A small, black ticket stub, embossed in red foil. 1 return fare, non-human. And just beneath that, do not redeem until night 4. I stared at the ticket in my hand until the edges felt sharp. 1 return fare, non-human. My name wasn't on it, but neither was anyone else's. I flipped it over. The back was blank. Not even a timestamp. The paper felt too thick, too cold like plastic dipped in ink, and it pulsed slightly in my fingers. Not a vibration, a heartbeat. I shoved it into my coat pocket like it burned. I didn't go home again. I drove. Nowhere in particular, just around the city until the sky turned blue, until the shadows tucked themselves back into corners and the streets looked ordinary again. But nothing about the city felt real anymore. The buildings looked too clean, the sidewalks too empty. I passed the same woman walking the same dog on 3 different blocks. Each time, she waved with the exact same motion, like she was on a loop. By 10:00 a.m., I parked behind an abandoned firehouse and killed the engine. And for the first time in days, I cried. I showed up again that night, early, but not too early. Dock 5 was silent. No red, no knocks, just the bus, humming softly, like it had been waiting for me. The door was already open, and the mile meter read 3, 6, not 0. Not a reset. It had continued, as if the last ride never ended. The route card now had a line drawn through Verdant Row. A new stop had been added. Stop 6, return loop, access conditional. I didn't know what access conditional meant, but I had a feeling it had something to do with the ticket in my coat pocket. I started the bus. Immediately, the headlights clicked on by themselves. The cabin lights stayed off, and the radio whispered something I couldn't quite catch, like a voice mumbling through sleep. Then it said, clear as day, do not acknowledge the man in the mirror. He is not you. The first few miles were empty. No passengers, no stops, no signs of life. At 4 miles, the engine shuddered, but didn't die. The lights on the dashboard blinked out for 2 seconds, then came back. The radio crackled again. This shift is no longer observational. You are being measured. Measured. For what? At 8 miles, the first stop appeared. A boy stood alone at the corner of a street with no name. He looked about 9 years old, thin, pale, holding a stuffed rabbit in one hand. He didn't speak when I opened the door, just climbed the steps and sat behind me. Hey there, I said gently. Where you headed? He didn't answer, but I could hear the faint whisper of static coming from his toy. Not a voice, not a sound effect. Static, like a broken radio inside the rabbit. At 3 miles, the mirror began to lie. I saw myself in the glass, but not exactly me. He had the same face, the same jacket, the same grip on the wheel, but his mouth was moving. Mine wasn't, and when I looked down at my actual hands, his weren't mirroring me anymore. He was turning the wheel, slowly. I wasn't. I clenched the wheel tighter and turned it opposite to what he did. My bus stayed on the road, his tilted left. Then his face looked up right into the mirror and smiled. I yanked the rear view off the mount and threw it onto the floor. The moment I did, the bus's internal lights flashed once, and the little boy behind me started humming. Low, monotonous, mechanical, like a dial-up modem stuck in a music box. 4 miles, no stop, no one waiting. But the bus stopped anyway, on its own. The doors opened, a gust of cold air rushed in, and something stepped aboard. It looked like a man, but his proportions were wrong. Too tall, too narrow at the waist, and his legs didn't bend. They moved like stilts. He sat in the back row, and then every single window on the bus fogged up. Inside, I drove because I didn't know what else to do. I wasn't tracking the mile meter anymore. I was just trying not to crash. The fog spread across the windshield. I could barely see, just the white line on the road. Like a lifeline I was gripping through the glass. Then the boy spoke. His voice wasn't a child's anymore. It was low, flat, genderless. We've passed the point of reroute. Next stop, return loop, access conditional, fare required. I felt something shift in my coat. I reached into the pocket and pulled out the black ticket. The moment it cleared the fabric, the fog on the windshield began to pull back. Like someone dragging gauze away from a stage, a road emerged ahead. Straight, smooth, lit by a row of old gas lanterns hung from telephone poles. No turnoffs, no exits. At the end, a loop, a perfect circle paved with red brick. In the center stood a gate, wrought iron, 10 feet high, open just wide enough for the bus to slip through. I didn't steer. The bus did. As we entered the circle, every light inside the cabin died. The bus coasted. No engine noise. No brakes. No breathing behind me. Then a bell rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Ding, ding, ding. And the radio hissed. Fare accepted. Exchange pending. Choose who does not return. I spun in my seat. The boy was gone. So was the tall man. But a figure stood in the aisle. Red jacket, blonde braid, red. She looked tired, paler than before. "I'm not supposed to be here," she said. "You brought the ticket," I whispered. She nodded. "And you have to choose. Someone always has to choose. Choose what? One soul leaves, one stays. It's the rule of the loop." I shook my head. "What happens if I don't pick?" Her eyes filled with something that wasn't quite pity. "Then they pick for you." I didn't want to answer her. Every part of me screamed to pretend this wasn't happening, to stall, to ask another question, to stare blankly until the bus just rolled out of this hellish circle and back onto something I recognized. But time doesn't wait in the loop, not even fake time. The radio hissed again. Final notice, choose or be replaced. My throat felt like it was lined with ash. Red stepped closer. "You don't have to say it out loud," she said softly. "They hear your thoughts." I shook my head. "What kind of choice is this?" "The same kind I had." That stopped me. "You were the one who..." "Yes." Her voice cracked. 3 years ago, I drove this route. I followed the rules. I made it to night 4. And they gave me a ticket. Just like you. She paused. And I chose. I looked at her. Really looked. Her hands were trembling. Her eyes weren't just tired. They were hollow, like something had been scooped out behind them. What happens to the one who stays? Her eyes met mine. They stopped being human. The gate ahead creaked wider. Beyond it was nothing. Not blackness, not fog, just absence. The complete and utter lack of anything that should exist. The road ended at the edge of it. 1 more inch forward, and we drop into it. "I don't want to do this," I whispered. "I know." Red said, "None of us did." Then something impossible happened. The boy was back. He was sitting in the front row, hands folded on his lap, rabbit tucked under one arm. He looked at me not blankly, not with menace, but with understanding. Like he knew it was him, like he had been here before. "Why me?" I asked. He didn't answer, but Red did. "Because someone has to pay. Every route needs fuel. Last call. Choose." The radio was patient, terrifyingly patient. Red turned toward the back of the bus, her shoulders sagging. Then I felt it. The weight in my hand, the ticket. It was warmer now, almost hot, and it throbbed in time with something outside the bus. Something I couldn't hear but felt in my chest. I closed my eyes, and I thought, for a second, about choosing her, not the kid. Red. But I couldn't. Not when I saw the look in her face, the resigned one. She had already been chosen once before. She didn't deserve it again. I opened my eyes, and I whispered, "Take me." The bus groaned. Every window slammed shut at once, hard enough to shake the cabin. The windshield flashed blinding white. The radio exploded with static. Then silence. Total silence. The kind that swallows you. Red was gone. So was the boy. So was the gate. And so was the loop. The bus was moving again. Back on flat road. Back under working streetlights. The mile meter read 24. Sending. I was past the final stop. The dashboard clock said 4:47 a.m. The final stretch. I'd made it through the fourth night. But something wasn't right. I looked down at my reflection in the windshield, and I saw... not me. Not exactly. Same eyes. Same face. But they weren't mine anymore. They were empty. Like someone had slipped inside and only wore me. The voice came back. Not through the radio this time. Inside my head. You offered yourself, but they declined. You are not enough. My hands turned ice cold. I wasn't enough. Then who was? The bus slowed at the final light before Dock 5, and standing on the sidewalk, under a flickering street lamp, was Knox, only it wasn't him. Not really. It wore his uniform. It had his walk. But his face was wrong. Too smooth, too calm, like a wax figure melting just enough to look like it was smiling. He climbed the steps. I didn't open the door. It opened on its own. He didn't sit. He stood next to me, one hand resting lightly on the dashboard. Then he leaned in close and whispered, "They never choose the driver. They always choose the one who stays too long." I didn't understand what he meant until I looked into the mirror. The one I'd thrown down, it was back, and in it, I saw Red, still standing in the aisle, still waiting to be noticed. Her eyes hollow, mouth open in a silent scream, hands pressed against glass that didn't exist. And just like that, I understood she hadn't left the loop. She'd never made it out. She was still on board. Somewhere, maybe in the wiring, maybe in the reflection, maybe in me. I pulled into Dock 5 at exactly 5:00 a.m. The brakes hissed. The engine rumbled down to silence. The mile meter stopped at 26. Fighting. I shut off the ignition. The bus lights dimmed one final time. And before I stepped out, the radio whispered, "Final night tomorrow. The seat will be empty. Do not sit in it." Then silence. I didn't go home. Again. Instead, I parked outside an all-night laundromat and stared at my reflection in the vending machine glass, watching it move when I didn't, testing it, daring it to twitch before I did. It didn't. Not yet. But something inside me was changing. The world outside the windshield wasn't the same anymore. The people on the sidewalks moved with strange timing, like actors missing their cues. Dogs barked at empty spaces. Streetlights flickered even under clear skies. I'd been touched by something. Seen. Counted. Measured. And even if I survived night 5, I didn't think I'd get to walk away whole. I didn't sleep. I just waited. At 10:31 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unlisted number. Seat 17A. Do not let anyone sit there. Do not explain why. No punctuation. No name. Just the warning. I arrived at Dock 5 just before 11. There was no bus waiting. No Knox. No Red. No anything. Only the sound of wind sliding under the rusted garage door. Then I heard it. The horn. From behind me, I turned and saw it pulling in. But not the bus I'd driven before. This one was newer, sleeker, still painted in the same gray and blue stripes of the Metropolitan Area Express. But the windows were tinted pitch black, no reflections. The door opened with a slow hiss. The inside smelled wrong, like burned plastic and something sweet rotting under it. But I stepped in, because that's what you do when you've come this far. Seat 17A was halfway down the left side. It was already occupied. A man sat there, back straight, head tilted back, arms folded in his lap. He didn't blink, didn't breathe, didn't move. The moment I laid eyes on him, the bus recoiled. The interior lights snapped red. The doors slammed shut. The mile meter began to spin backward, and the speakers let out a low tone. Not a siren, Not a warning, a pulse, like a countdown. I ran down the aisle and stood in front of him. "Hey," I barked. "You need to move. This isn't your seat." He didn't even look at me. Didn't react. His body was there. His skin, his clothes, but there was nothing inside. Like he was just holding a shape. I grabbed his wrist, freezing. His eyes rolled toward me, and they were mirrors. I saw myself in them, only I was behind the wheel, grinning wide, bleeding from the gums, eyes pure black. I yanked my hand back. Then I heard footsteps. From the back of the bus, Red stepped into the aisle, but this time, she looked almost translucent. Her body flickered, like old film running on a broken reel. "He took my place," she said. "He sat in the seat I was meant to avoid." She reached toward the man, but her hand passed right through him. "They put him here to test you, to test if I would remove him," I asked. "No," she whispered. "To test if you'd trade places." The mile meter hit 3, 6, negative numbers now. The bus shuddered. Outside, the world was dark, but it wasn't night. It was nothing. A flat plane of matte gray, stretching in all directions. Then the door opened again, and someone stepped aboard. I didn't see their face. I only saw what was left behind. Wherever they stepped, the floor peeled. The linoleum tore up in long strips, curling back like sun-scorched skin. They didn't speak. They just walked down the aisle toward 17A. Toward me, I backed up, hands raised. "I didn't put him there," I said aloud. "You didn't stop him either," said Red. "He was already here. You were warned. That means it was yours to stop." I looked to the front of the bus. The driver's seat was gone. Not empty gone, just a black cavity where the cab should be. Like the front of the bus had never existed. "Where's my seat?" I asked, voice cracking. "You forfeited it when you allowed the exchange," said the voice from the aisle. It wasn't Red. It wasn't the man. It came from the bus itself, from the speakers, from the windows, from the air. "One must remain. One must drive. One must feed. Seat 17A is final." The man in the seat blinked once, and it was like something breathed in through him. The overhead lights pulsed. I felt myself being pulled toward the seat, like the air around it was a whirlpool. Red stepped between me and it. "You don't belong there," she whispered. Then she turned and sat in the seat. The moment she did, the bus roared to life. Lights returned to white. The windshield returned. The world outside snapped back into city streets. The man in 17A crumbled to ash. Gone. Just a pile of soot, the size of a person. The mile meter ticked forward again. Snumko. 0. Ngira. 1. Sura. 2. Red looked up at me. She was solid again. Alive. But something in her eyes told me the price hadn't disappeared. "Why?" I asked. "Why take the seat?" She smiled. "Not like before. This one had pain in it. Because the last driver left me there," she said. "And if I didn't take it, you'd be next. Now what happens? You drive," she said. "One more night, and then," her smile faded, "you learn what it means to never stop." I drove the rest of the shift in silence. No passengers, no radio, no Red. Just the hum of the engine and the mile meter counting up slow and deliberate. Every tenth of a mile sounded like a nail being tapped into wood. When I pulled into Dock 5, the lot looked exactly like it had on the first night. Same light flickering above Bay 3, same oil stains, same silence. But when I shut off the engine, it didn't turn off. It kept purring, low and steady, like it didn't want to be parked, like it had something else planned. I stepped out and let the door hiss shut behind me. No gonocks, no clipboard, just a small wooden box on the concrete, resting against the wall by the office door. My name was carved into the top, not written, carved, with deep, uneven strokes. I hesitated, but I opened it. Inside was a key, silver, lonked, and clearly old. Beneath it, a strip of paper, Folded twice, I unfolded it. It read, "Final shift, 11:45 p.m., the Exchange Depot." And beneath that, "Return what is owed. Only then are you free." I didn't go home. Instead, I sat in my car, parked behind the terminal with the key in my hand, trying to figure out what the hell it meant to return what is owed. I thought maybe it meant the ticket, but I'd already handed that over. Red had taken the seat. The man in 17A was gone. Then I wondered, was it me? Was I the one that had to go? Had I broken a rule I hadn't even known existed? The more I thought, the worse it got. The rules weren't just about surviving the night. They were about being claimed. At 11:42 p.m., the radio in my car buzzed. I hadn't turned it on. No one else was in the lot. But the speakers whispered, "The bus will arrive. Do not follow it. Do not meet it halfway. Board only when summoned." I didn't move. 3 minutes later, I heard the horn. Not the usual two-tone honk. This one was longer, lower, and it echoed in a way that made the walls of the terminal vibrate like tuning forks. The bus that pulled in wasn't from the city fleet. It was black, not painted, made black. Like it was built from the night itself. No markings, no numbers, and where the mile meter should have been was a circular gauge with no numbers. Only a single red needle twitching like a compass spinning in a storm. The door didn't open. Not right away. It waited, like it was watching me. Then I heard the click. The wooden key in my hand vibrated once and dissolved. Just like that, flaked away like burned paper. The door hissed open. I stepped in. The inside of the Exchange Depot bus was nothing like the others. No rows, no seats, no steering wheel. Just a long, dark corridor lined with windows that showed places I'd never been. I walked down the aisle. The windows didn't show streets. They showed memories, my memories. The hallway where I got my first kiss. The kitchen where my mom used to sing while chopping onions. The hospital bed where my dad died. Scene after scene, flickering by like they were playing on ancient film reels. The colors bleeding at the edges. And then one window showed me, asleep in my apartment. A red ticket folded on my nightstand. But I wasn't alone in the bed. Something stood at the foot of it, tall, motionless. Watching me sleep, I screamed and turned away. But the next window showed the same room empty, like I had never existed at all. The hallway ended at a door, a single door, no handle, just a circular depression the size of a palm. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. The moment I stepped forward, the door vanished. Not opened, vanished. Behind it was a single chamber, circular, lit from beneath, the floor made of glass with endless black beneath it. In the center stood a podium. On it, a list, handwritten, in red ink, a long, endless scroll pinned at the top and trailing down the base, with names scribbled one after another, some crossed out, some smeared with ink, some burned. At the bottom was mine. Ryan Marrow, still untouched, still waiting. A voice filled the chamber. It didn't come from a speaker. It came from inside me. One more must be claimed. One must be returned. You survived. Now you must choose the final handoff. A second podium rose from the floor beside the first. On it, a mirror. But this time, it was blank. No reflection. Just a silver surface that shimmered like water. A handprint began to rise from beneath it, pressing upward, waiting. I stepped forward, and I asked the only question I hadn't dared speak until now. What happens if I refuse? The voice responded. Then the city dies one block at a time. Your route continues forever. You drive alone, always, without stops, without sleep, without end. And those who should have been taken, stay. I thought of Red, of the boy, of the passengers who never blinked, of the man with the mirror eyes in 17A, and I knew what the exchange was. This wasn't a transit system. This was a collection, and I was its newest courier. I placed my hand on the mirror. The metal turned warm. The scroll flickered, and the ink moved. My name slid one row higher. A new name appeared below mine. I didn't recognize it, but I didn't have to. That wasn't my part anymore. My job was just to deliver. The chamber vanished. When I was back in the bus, behind the wheel, the meter was gone. But I knew the route, the stops, the faces, the rules. I was the night driver now. I drove with no map, no route card, no mile meter, but somehow I knew where to go. The streets shifted beneath the wheels like they recognized me. Pavement unfolded one block at a time. Alleys bent into new boulevards. Entire intersections turned to face the bus as I approached. I was no longer just a driver. I was a conduit, somewhere between man and machine. At 3 a.m., I pulled up to a stop that hadn't existed until tonight. The sign read, Langdon Reach in peeling gray paint. A single man waited there, arms folded, head low beneath a faded baseball cap. He looked up as the door opened, and for a moment, I saw recognition flash in his eyes. Not recognition of me of the bus. He stepped on without hesitation and sat near the rear. The air grew colder as soon as he did. When I checked the mirror, his face was gone. Not literally just missing. The glass reflected an empty seat where he should have been. But I could hear him breathing. Second stop. A woman in her 40s, dragging a suitcase with no wheels. Her left hand trembled. When she looked at me, her mouth didn't move, but a child's voice echoed in the cabin. Do you go all the way to the end? I didn't answer, because I didn't know what the end was anymore. She took a seat and began muttering numbers under her breath. I never saw her blink. The bus rolled on, somewhere near what used to be downtown. The fog returned, but this time it wasn't outside. It bled up from the floorboards like the city was underneath us. Flooding upward, streetlights passed through the windows, like fish gliding through murky water. I couldn't see the road anymore. Didn't matter. The bus drove itself now. I was just the witness. The third stop didn't have a sign, just a mailbox sitting alone in a field of dirt. A young man with a bandage over his mouth stepped aboard. His name was written on his arm in Sharpie. Eric. He held up a photograph. It was a picture of me, sitting in the driver's seat. Only the photo was old. The bus behind me was rusted. The buildings in the background had been demolished years ago. I didn't speak. He nodded once, folded the photo into a square, and swallowed it. Then he sat, and his seat vanished beneath him, just sank into the floor like it had never existed. We kept moving. The inside of the bus no longer matched the outside. I'd see skyscrapers passing the windows, but inside the ceiling was wood-paneled. The lights dimmed to gas lamp orange. Once, the floor turned to tile. Once, all the windows went black and didn't come back for a full minute. I tried not to think too hard about the shifting. You can't navigate this route with logic. Only instinct, only obedience. Around 4:17 a.m., the radio crackled. A voice I hadn't heard since night 1. Conducts, you've come further than most, he said, like he was proud and exhausted at the same time. But now comes the real test. You'll arrive soon at a split. 3 roads, 3 doors. Only one takes you home. The others, well, you won't come back to report on them. Choose wisely. No resets this time. The radio cut out. The cabin lights flickered red, then stabilized. The passengers, if you could call them, that were all standing now. Not moving, not looking at me, just standing, waiting. The road ahead divided. 3 forks, each one identical at first glance, but only one felt right. The left fork was clean, well lit, smooth pavement. It even had fresh white lines painted down the center. But the light posts buzzed, not like electricity, like flies. The middle fork was narrow, almost overgrown. No lights. The trees leaned inward, as if trying to pull the road into their roots. The right fork looked incomplete, like someone started building it, but never finished. The ground was uneven. Signs lay face down in the dirt. But there was wind. I could hear it howling ahead, a real sound. A living sound. I took the right. The moment the wheels crossed the threshold, the rest of the road behind me folded in like paper. The passengers sat down as one, and the bus began to descend. Down a hill I hadn't seen, into a space I hadn't noticed. The city vanished, replaced by something older, raw. We passed buildings made of salt bricks, towers with no windows, roads that curled upward like scrolls left in the rain. I couldn't see stars anymore, just a single, burning circle in the sky. Not the sun, not the moon, a door wide enough for the whole bus. And it was open as we approached. The passengers began to speak, all at once, voices layered, like 1,000 people whispering the same sentence on top of each other. One must stay, one must tell, one must warn. The bus slowed. The door ahead burned brighter. Then the radio clicked. A new voice, Red. "You can get off now," she said. "But if you do, someone else takes your seat, and they'll never know the rules until it's too late." The bus stopped, right at the edge. The world ahead was light. The world behind me was dark. The door hissed open, and I stood, not sure what would happen next. Not sure if I was a driver anymore, or just cargo. I stood at the threshold, one boot on the floor of the bus, the other hovering just above the light beyond the door. I couldn't tell if the light was warm or cold. It didn't hurt my eyes. It didn't invite me either. It just existed, a presence, a promise, a trap. Behind me, the passengers were still seated, still watching, but not with their eyes. They didn't need to. The bus watched for them. The seat where Red had once sat was empty now. A faint outline of her remained, burned into the vinyl like a ghost's shadow. After a nuclear flash, the voice returned, Red. Inside the cabin, speakers now, not soft, not distant, sharp. Present. It's not over. Ryan, you know that. This door, it's not freedom, it's function. Leave if you want, but know what you're leaving behind. I looked out again, and the light bent. It didn't shimmer or ripple, it bent, like it was leaning closer, trying to see what I'd choose. I stepped back. Just once, the door hissed closed without a sound. The passengers exhaled in unison. I didn't even know they were holding their breath. The bus groaned, not mechanically, emotionally, like it was disappointed or relieved, or both. The overhead lights changed color, soft amber, almost nostalgic, the kind of lighting you'd see in an old diner or a childhood dream. The city outside was gone, replaced by something quieter, a place without sound, not silence, exactly. More like a lull, the pause between thoughts. The driver's seat pulled back slightly. I sat, not because I wanted to, because there was nowhere else to be. A new route card appeared on the dash, printed on parchment instead of laminated cardstock. It had no stop names, no times, just one phrase written in looping red ink. Final pickup. The one who escaped. I didn't know who that was until I saw the next stop. The bus slowed without instruction. We were at a motel, one of those nameless roadside places with flickering vacancy signs and doors that never fully close. I knew the room before I saw the number, room 6, because that's where I stayed after the third shift. When I couldn't sleep, when I tried to disappear, and standing outside the door was me, I looked just like I had then. Same clothes, same stubble, same dark circles under my eyes. But he hadn't seen what I'd seen yet. He wasn't touched yet. I opened the door. He looked up, startled, and I saw the moment recognition hit him. Not recognition of me, recognition of his fate. No, he said, backing away. You're not real. I wasn't, I said, but I am now. What is this? The route, I said, and it needs to close. He bolted for the sidewalk. but the world around us had already begun to tighten. The sky turned static. The ground blinked in and out like a loading screen. I didn't chase him. The bus would bring him in. I returned to the seat, watched in the mirror as the door opened again. He was pulled in, not violently, but inevitably, the door closed behind him. He stood in the aisle, eyes wide, lips trembling. What happens now? You replace me, I said quietly. His face twisted. Like hell I do. You will, I said. Not because you want to, because the route doesn't recycle drivers. It consumes them, converts them. It needs someone new. He stared at me, and I saw the moment he broke. Not loudly, just that subtle sag of the shoulders, the breath that stops halfway, the kind of surrender you don't notice unless you've done it too. He sat down. In my seat, the lights dimmed. The floor shifted. The windows flickered once, then showed city streets again. Normal streets, normal lights. We were back where it all began. The radio clicked once more. You did well, Ryan. Most don't make it to the handoff. You understood something crucial. It's not about the rules. It's about accepting that they exist, even when you never agreed to them. I stood. The driver looked up at me, my replacement. He didn't speak, just nodded. That was enough. I walked to the door, and this time, it opened into morning. Real morning. Birdsong, buses, traffic, sunlight. I stepped off and looked back only once. The windows were black again, and the route card vanished. The bus rolled away. No number, no line, just a vehicle without an identity, heading for another terminal that doesn't appear on any map. I was back. I was out, but I knew better now. I hadn't survived. I had just passed the seat to the next one. And someday, when the rules bend again and the route opens once more, it will come looking for me. Not to drive, not to choose, but to pay. It's been 4 days since I got out. If you want to call this getting out. I don't sleep anymore. Not because I'm scared. I mean, I am, but that's not it. It's because every time I close my eyes, I hear the engine. Not in dreams, in my bones, a low, rumbling, idling, somewhere deep inside my chest. Like my heart was replaced with a diesel motor, and it's waiting for a green light that'll never come. And I think the city knows. Daylight feels artificial now. Too bright, too clean, like the world is trying too hard to look normal. I walked past a city bus on 8th and Delmar earlier. Just a regular daytime route, packed with passengers, kids with headphones, elderly woman with a reusable shopping bag, a man with paint on his jeans. But the driver, he didn't have a reflection. I stood at the corner as the bus rolled past, trying to tell myself it was a trick of the glass. But I saw the overhead mirror flicker just once. And behind the wheel, I tried to ignore it. I went to a bar. First drink since I got off the route. The bartender asked for my name for the tab. I gave him Ryan. He stared, said, "That's funny. Guy in here last night gave me the same name. Said he drove the graveyard shift. Real quiet type." I left before my beer even hit the counter. The dream started that night. Or something like dreams. I'd wake up in my apartment, and the walls would be gone. Just seats lining the perimeter, passengers staring out windows that weren't there. Once, I woke up and found myself standing outside my closet with both hands gripping the doorknob, like I'd been trying to open it for hours. I don't remember walking there. I live alone. I shouldn't have heard breathing inside that closet, but I did. And I still do, every night. Same rhythm, same sound as the bus idling before it moves. On the 6th day, a letter arrived. No postmark, no stamp. Just folded once and left under my apartment door. Inside, one sentence, handwritten in red ink. "You left your route unfinished." There was no signature, but the paper smelled like diesel and cold metal. I don't remember going back to Dock 5, but I did. Because there I was standing in front of it at midnight, staring through the fence like it owed me something. The bay was dark, But a bus was there, a different one. Smaller, older, a shuttle, maybe, but I could feel it watching. I didn't get on. I turned and walked away. Every step felt heavier than the last. By the time I reached the edge of the lot, my legs didn't want to move anymore, like the street had turned to syrup. I sat on the curb and just stared at my shoes for what felt like hours. When I looked up, it was still midnight. My watch hadn't moved. My phone battery hadn't dropped 1%. Time stopped as soon as I stepped on the property. The next day, my name was gone from my ID. I don't mean scratched off or faded. I mean the plastic was clean, as if no one had ever printed anything there. My phone didn't recognize my face anymore, couldn't unlock. I went to the DMV to check my records. The clerk said, "Ryan Marrow. Doesn't show you ever had a license." I asked to see the screen. She turned the monitor. I was there, but not my photo. The image was of the bus, just the bus, sitting empty on a stretch of cracked asphalt at night. Exactly the kind of image that shows up when you forget to take a picture and the form autofills a placeholder. But that wasn't what it was. That was the picture. My ID had become my route. Later that night, I heard knocking at my door. 3 sharp taps, then silence. I waited. 5 minutes passed. Then a 4th knock. Slower, lower, like someone dragging their knuckle across the wood. I didn't answer, but I sat on the floor and pressed my ear to the door. There was no one outside. There was no hallway anymore, just the faint sound of an engine turning over in the dark. I know what's happening now. I didn't escape. I just postponed the next shift. That seat, the one I gave up, it's waiting for me. And so is the bussy, because the route never ends. Not really. It just loops. And when the next driver fails, or walks off, or vanishes, the route reverts to the last successful operator. Me. So I keep moving. New apartments, new names. I don't drive anymore. I walk everywhere, even if it takes hours, even if I miss work. I don't risk getting in anything with wheels, because the last time I sat in a driver's seat, even in my own car, the mirror blinked. And when it did, I saw the mile meter behind my eyes. 3, 6, starting over. It happened again tonight. I was on foot, walking back from the 24-hour market a few blocks from my latest place. Grocery bag in one hand, headphones in. I had music playing, but I couldn't tell you what. It all just turns to noise lately. Background static to cover up the real soundtrack. I've been trying not to hear. The hum, that low, mechanical thrum that sneaks into the silence between footsteps. You don't hear it unless you're alone, but once you've driven a night route that shouldn't exist, you always hear it. The street was empty, just a few flickering sodium lights, and the sound of my boots on pavement. But halfway down the block, I saw it, a bus stop. Not one I recognized. No bench, no trash can, just a crooked sign leaning slightly left. The letters scraped off long ago. I wasn't going to stop. I wasn't even going to look. But then I saw what was underneath it. A mirror, not a real one, a reflection. In the glass of the empty ad board, it showed me standing at the sign. But in the reflection, I wasn't alone. There was someone behind me, tall, dressed in gray, wearing my face. I turned, no one there. When I looked back, the reflection was gone too, and the mile meter had returned, burned into the surface of the glass. Nire, zero, reset. I ran home, didn't look back. Didn't stop when I dropped the groceries. When a can of soup burst open on the sidewalk, I just ran until I was behind a locked door, 2 deadbolts, and a couch shoved up against it. I didn't sleep. I just watched the windows, and I waited for the lights to flicker. Because that's how it starts. Every time, there's a rule they never wrote down. Not on the original sheet, not in the updates, not even on the route cards that sometimes showed up in blood or bone dust. The rule is this: once the city chooses you, you can't leave. You don't retire. You don't transfer. You don't age out. You drive until the route says otherwise, or until something else drives you. I tried leaving once, before the dreams started crawling into my walls, before my ID vanished, and I stopped showing up in security cameras. I bought a bus ticket to Chicago, one of those overnight Greyhounds that smell like sweat and bad coffee. I sat in the back, kept my hood up, didn't make eye contact. Somewhere near the state line, I finally relaxed. I leaned against the window, and I fell asleep, only for a second. But when I opened my eyes, I wasn't on the Greyhound anymore. I was in bus 301. Same torn seats, same ticking mile meter, same passengers, seated silently around me. And the worst part, the driver was me. He didn't speak, didn't even blink. But when I looked at him in the mirror, his lips curled into that same familiar, too wide grin. I closed my eyes and screamed. When I opened them again, I was back on the Greyhound, but now the seat beside me was wet, soaked, actually, and no one was sitting in it. I haven't tried to leave since. I stay within the city limits. I don't take cabs. I don't ride trains. I don't even own a bicycle, because anything that moves on a line belongs to them. Last night, the dreams changed. They used to just replay the shifts, the faceless passengers. The man in seat 17A read, but this time, I dreamed of a new route. It was short, only 2 stops. The first was my apartment. The second was a door, standing alone in the middle of the street. No building, no sidewalk, just a freestanding black door with a gold handle, wide enough for the bus to pass through. I didn't want to drive toward it, but I couldn't stop. The brake pedal wasn't there. The steering wheel turned itself, and the passengers were laughing, quietly, rhythmically, like a looped recording of joy that never really happened. When I woke up, my feet were wet. I sleep on the 2nd floor. All the windows were closed, but the floor around my bed was soaked with dirty water. And in the puddle, perfectly centered, was a transfer slip issued by Metropolitan Area Express. No date, no driver name, just a route number, 312. I thought it was a threat, a warning that the next shift was coming. But now I'm not so sure. Maybe it's an invitation, or worse, a promotion. Because once you finish your shift on 301, they don't just let you go. They put you somewhere harder, somewhere deeper. I don't think I have much time left. The static's louder now. It buzzes in my ears when I pass reflective surfaces. Mirrors stutter when I walk by. And the people I pass on the street, they're starting to look familiar. Like I've seen them on the bus before, only now they're dressed in office clothes, or jogging, or pushing strollers. They're blending in, waiting, watching, like I did before my first night. And I know what that means. The city is assigning new routes. And I'm not just a driver anymore. I'm a recruiter. There's a type of horror no one talks about. Not ghosts, not killers, not monsters crawling out of your TV. It's the horror of realizing you're part of the system now, that the thing you feared has made space for you inside itself. And worse, you fit. It started subtle. I'd pass strangers on the street and just know which ones were marked, which ones had missed a stop, which ones had accepted a ride they shouldn't have. I didn't see symbols, no marks on their skin, nothing supernatural, but my chest would tighten when I saw them, like the mile meter was ticking again. Inside me. 2 nights ago, I followed one, a woman, maybe late 30s, dressed like she'd just gotten off a late shift at a diner, shoes worn to the thread, heavy bag over one shoulder. She didn't see me, but I saw her pause at a corner one that used to have a bus stop, but had been ripped out years ago. There was nothing there now, just concrete and weeds. But she stopped anyway, looked up, tilted her head. Like she was listening, she smiled, then turned around and kept walking. That's when I saw it, a faint red glow in the puddle behind her. Not a reflection, a route number, 301. She was next. I don't know how I knew, but I did. She was going to be on the bus soon. And for the first time, I understood why they keep sending us back out here. It's not just about survival. It's about identification. They need us to find the ones who are already out of sync with the world. The ones who can see just a little too much. The ones who look into mirrors and see something breathing behind the glass. They need us to mark them. And once you do, you can't unsee it. Last night, I found a paper on my pillow. Plain, folded into thirds. No return address, no handwriting. Printed only, Route 302 now active. You will observe, you will decide. Below that, in smaller font. You are no longer the driver, you are the schedule. I didn't sleep. I just stared at my ceiling, wondering what it meant. How do you become a schedule? Do you tell the bus who gets picked up? Do you determine the route? Do you decide who pays? Today, the world feels lighter. That should be a good thing, right? But it's not. It's not light like relief. It's light like a movie set. Like someone forgot to put texture in the sidewalks. Like if I stepped too hard, I'd punch through the air and fall into whatever waits behind the backdrop. And everywhere I go, people are slowing down when they pass me, watching, not with fear, not with curiosity, with recognition. They don't know me, but something inside them does. At 5:17 p.m. today, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. The message was 5 words. You are now the stop. I played it again, same voice. No background noise, just those 5 words. Perfectly clear, I stood by the window, phone still in my hand, staring at the sidewalk in front of my apartment. And I saw a woman I didn't recognize standing there. Not moving, no phone in hand, no bag, just standing, facing me, waiting. Like I was the bus, I closed the blinds. But when I looked again, she was gone. I thought it was over, until I turned on the kitchen light and saw muddy footprints leading from the front door to the middle of the hallway. My hallway rug was damp, and something heavy had been dragged across it. But my door was still locked. I walked slowly, checking each room, nothing out of place, until I opened the bathroom door and saw the driver's mirror resting against the sink. Same size, same crack across the top corner, same frame I'd broken off on my 3rd night. But it was here, in my apartment, waiting. I turned it over, on the back, written in the fog, next passenger in. 3 stops. I didn't know what it meant, but I think I do now. 3 more people, 3 more sightings, 3 more signs, and then it starts again. I think I know who the next one is. It's the guy across the hall, Greg. We've said maybe 10 words to each other in 3 months, but lately he's been smiling too much. Like he's in on a joke I can't hear. Yesterday, I caught him talking to the peephole in his door, just whispering, then laughing, then whispering again. And when he turned around, he winked at me. I checked his doormat this morning. There was a faint outline in the dust shaped like a shoe print, but not one shoe. It was 2 shoes, side by side, facing the door, like someone stood there for a very long time. I think he's the next passenger, but I don't know if I'm the one sending the bus, or the one driving it in. Tonight, I opened my door, not for Greg, not for anyone. I opened it because I needed to see. I needed to know if the city was still real out there, or if it had hollowed out entirely, and I was the last echo of something long gone. The hallway was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet where your breathing sounds foreign, like it belongs to someone standing behind you. I stepped out, closed the door, and listened. 3 seconds in, the hallway lights flickered once, twice, then steadied, and that's when I saw it. A transfer ticket slipped beneath Greg's door, identical to the one I found on my nightstand the morning of my 4th shift. Black card stock, red foil, embossed lettering. 1 return fare, non-human. I didn't touch it, didn't have to. As soon as I crouched to look closer, the floor beneath me vibrated, not loud, not violent, just a low, deep hum, the kind engines make when they're idling just out of sight. The bus was near, somewhere beneath us, or above. Or inside, and Greg, he started laughing. Not loud, not manic, more like a child overhearing something they're too young to understand. It leaked through the thin apartment wall, mixed with whispers, soft syllables spoken in time with each flicker of the light. I knocked. His laughter stopped. "Greg," I said. No answer. "Did you get something under your door?" Still silence. Then I heard the click of the chain sliding into place on his side. He was locking it. From me, I turned around and walked back toward the stairwell. Made it halfway down when I saw it. A mirror, propped up on the landing, not mine, not decorative. A driver's mirror. Same shape, same steel back, same cracked corner. And in it, Greg, standing directly behind me. But when I spun around, the landing was empty. I don't know how long I stood there. Might have been seconds. Might have been hours. Time doesn't work the way it used to. But eventually, I made it back to my door. When I went inside, my apartment wasn't my apartment. Not completely. The floor was the same. The couch was still pressed against the door. But everything else, it looked like the bus. My kitchen had turned into a control panel. My bedroom, lined with faded blue seats. And on my TV screen, without it even being on, was the route map. Only 2 stops left. I sat on the couch. The cushions hissed when I sank in. Like hydraulics, I waited. At exactly 3:36 a.m., the television blinked once, then displayed a message. Stop 1, Greg, 371 Chinmo, 7 miles northwest. Stop 2, final, exchange terminal. I thought about running. I really did. But I already knew I'd end up there anyway. The exchange doesn't wait. It collects, and once it assigns you a route, you're the route. I found myself walking. Couldn't tell you how I got outside. Couldn't remember dressing. One moment I was sitting in my apartment. The next, I was standing on 45th Street under a blinking crosswalk light. My hands wrapped around a steering wheel that wasn't there. And then headlights cut through the dark. A bus, gray, weathered, no route number, empty. Except for one thing, Site 17A, occupied. Greg, he looked right at me through the windshield, and I swear he mouthed the words. It's your turn now. The doors opened. I didn't move. The pavement under my feet tilted, subtly but undeniably forward. The world was pushing me in. I grabbed the rail, stepped inside, sat behind the wheel. The seat remembered me. The dash flickered. Radio clicked on, and I heard Red's voice, calm and cold. Welcome back. One more handoff. Then you're done. Maybe. The doors hissed closed. I didn't touch the controls. The bus started on its own. I looked into the mirror. Greg was smiling. Only not with his mouth. His mouth didn't move, but his eyes curled upward, like his bones had learned to express joy without his muscles. Mile meter, Sirum. Naultien. The city passed in silence. No passengers, no chatter, only Greg, only me. Stop 1. Trazi. 7 miles. The bus slowed. Not at a station, not at a curb. At a cul-de-sac I hadn't seen in years. My childhood home. The mirror buzzed. Greg was gone. His seat, empty. But the outline was still there. Not dust, not shadow. An impression, as if the seat had absorbed him. Across the aisle, a transfer slip rested neatly on seat 17B. My name printed in clean red ink. No mistakes, no escape clauses. I reached for it. My hand passed through the paper, like it wasn't meant for me anymore, like it was already being processed. I sat back, looked at the dashboard, and it said something new, not printed, not digital, etched directly into the plastic. You are now the exchange. I'm not the driver anymore. I'm not even the bus. I'm the stop. And I know who's next. The last passenger boarded 5 minutes ago. She didn't speak, didn't hand over a fare. She just stepped on, nodded once like she'd been expecting this moment her whole life, and sat in the front row. Seat 1A. That's how I know the route is closing. Nobody sits in the front row unless the system's winding down. She keeps her hands folded on her lap. Her eyes never blink. Her lips are chapped and cracked, like she's been whispering secrets to herself for years. The moment she sat, the windows went black, all of them. No outside view, just reflections. But they don't reflect the inside of the bus. They show places, people, moments. Each pane a memory that doesn't belong to me. A mother screaming as headlights race toward her stroller. A man digging a hole in the dark, whispering apologies to the earth. A child alone in a house, watching something climb out of the television. Every one of them turns to face me just before the image fades. Like they know I'm watching, like I've always been. The bus doesn't drive now, it waits. I'm not at the wheel anymore. I'm not even standing in the aisle. I'm the thing the route passes through. The exchange, the system that remembers every broken rule, every unscheduled stop, every face that climbed aboard when it wasn't supposed to. I know them all now, by name, by face, by fare. The woman in seat 1A begins to hum. It's tuneless, old, a bedtime song from a country that doesn't exist anymore. I don't ask how I know that. Knowledge just arrives now, like updates downloaded directly into my skin. The bus doors open, no sound, no hiss of hydraulics, just open and on the sidewalk, beneath a street lamp that isn't plugged into anything real. He's standing there. The new one, the next, young, 20, maybe, headphones around his neck, delivery uniform, face too tired for someone that age. He stares at the bus, doesn't step forward yet. He's waiting for something, a sign. I want to warn him, to scream through the glass, tell him not to do it, to turn around, to run, but I can't. I'm not lips or lungs anymore. I'm a signal, a schedule, a list of names waiting to be called in the dark. He takes a step, then another, stops just at the curb, hesitates, and then the bus sighs, not mechanical, not atmospheric, organic, like a breath drawn for the very first time. The kind of sound that means, welcome. The boy boards. He walks past the woman in 1A. She doesn't look at him. She just hums louder. He glances around, eyes scanning for a driver. Sees none, but keeps walking. 3 steps, 4, stops at the 5th, seat 17A. I want to shout, don't sit there, but it's too late. He drops into the seat, and the moment he does, the mile meter reappears, lit in crimson numbers on the ceiling. No. The lights flash once, then settle, and the bus begins to move. I feel it. Not the wheels, not the road. The choice. The system is assigning again, updating, rebalancing its math. It always comes down to math, even in horror, even in endings, even in debt, and mine has been tallied. Account closed. Route fulfilled. My name has been crossed out. I feel it disappear, like dust off a ledger no one was supposed to find. There is no joy, no sorrow, only the knowledge that someone else will take my place now. The windows shift again. This time, they show his memories. The boy's, his first night skateboarding in the parking garage under the mall, the time he hid in the bathroom at school, so no one would see him cry. The apartment where he tried to call his mom after a year of silence only to hang up at the last second. And behind those memories, the route begins to sketch itself. Stops, incidents, violations, passengers, rules. A new sheet is printing from the dashboard. Old paper, red ink, rules for survival. Line 302 night shift. It's different than mine was. Shorter, sharper, hungrier, because the route adapts. And this one won't be kind. I feel the doors close behind him. The lock clicks. The fare is accepted. He looks around one last time, and that's when he sees it. The mirror, mounted to the ceiling, pointed down at him, and in it, he sees me, just for a second, A flicker, a man with hollow eyes and a uniform made of shadow, nodding once, not a warning, not a farewell, just acknowledgement, the way one gear nods to another just before the whole machine turns. And now I'm nowhere and everywhere. The city hums with a rhythm that I recognize. I pass buses on empty roads, and the driver's face never quite resolves. Sometimes I see a flash of my old reflection in a passing window. Other times, just a seat empty but humming. Waiting, always waiting, because the route never ends. It only waits for someone new to break the rules.